one thing we can agree on, regardless of our beliefs or background, is that all of us love to hear stories of wondrous miracles and the miracle makers that make them happen. So when I say the word miracle, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A brand of hearing aid? An amazing, immemorable U.S. Olympic hockey game? I pray it's not salad dressing, because I, for one, hardly find glorified mayonnaise to be a thing of beauty and wonder to behold, which is the definition of the Latin word miraculum, from whence we get the word miracle. And miracle is simply defined as an unforeseen, welcomed event, not explained by scientific reasoning, and thereby attributable to a higher power. So, knowing that, exactly how do miracles happen? Well, by definition, a miracle is required only in a catastrophic circumstance that we can't, under our own abilities, resolve. So, as the storms of life, a catastrophe approaches, what is a normal human tendency? Isn't it to run as fast as we can the opposite direction, or to hunker down and try to survive the best we can? But I'm here to tell you today that if you want to see miracles in your life, the exact counterintuitive response is required. Armed with three special elements and surrounded by like-minded people, miracles happen when we walk directly into the wall of the hurricanes of life. And those three essential ingredients are simply hope, faith, and love. For of course we're hoping for a miracle, but you must possess an abiding faith in some higher power, whatever that might be for you. But the most important element of all is love. Pulitzer Prize-winning author Willa Cather famously said, "Where there is great love, there are always miracles." And as an orthopedic pediatric surgeon, father of 6 kids, and missionary to Africa of 25 years, I have been the recipient of and witnessed numerous miracles, all occurring in a context of great love, but never occurring in a vacuum. As the story I'm about to tell graphically illustrates, depicted in the book of the same name, miracles happen when people of hope, faith, and love answer the call to the possibility of wondrous miracles. So our story begins May 6, 2017. In celebration of 20 years of transformative ministry, our STEM board of directors is traveling on safari to the Ngorongoro crater in Tanzania. Reluctantly accompanying them are 3 soon-to-be heroes, Manda, Jennifer, and Kevin, who had miraculously agreed to come on this trip with only 30 days' notice, specifically to run an orthopedic outreach clinic in remote Tanzania. Can you imagine their disappointment when the reason for their trip, that clinic, canceled just the day before due to unforeseen circumstances? Their dreams were shattered, but greater opportunity lie ahead. So I pointedly told them, with no other choice, to go on safari, but to be sure to be at the crater gate at 7 a.m. Inexplicably, on that day, they were 90 minutes late, but providentially, seconds behind a tragic bus crash, where 35 seventh graders and 3 adults careened off a slippery dirt road, crashing into a ravine below. Now, encountering this catastrophic event, did our 3 heroes hunker down or run in the other direction? No, armed with faith, hope, and love, those 3 dove headlong out of their Land Rover, quickly triaging 32 dead and dismembered 7th graders and 3 adults. Miraculously, they found 3 with a heartbeat. And after dignifying the dead and loading the 3 into a cargo van, they rode in shock onto safari. Again, through providential circumstances I can't explain here, the next day they were able to see the 3 survivors. And returning to our orphan compound that night, they explained in graphic detail the devastating findings. Between the 3, over 25 fractures, shattered jaws, crushed vertebrae, broken neck, and multiple limb fractures. My dear wife Dana, upon hearing this news, who possesses a bit of worldly naivete, but childlike hope, rock-solid faith, and overwhelming love, texted me while I was outside, Surely we must bring these kids back to America or they will definitely die. My response was, have you totally lost your mind? There is no way the sovereign government of Tanzania will ever allow these children to leave. Our financially strapped trauma hospital in Sioux City will never, ever assume the medical cost. And transporting 3 dying, battered children across the Atlantic Ocean is utterly impossible. And then she gently reminded me of an inescapable, universal truth. Miracles happen. So at 11 o'clock that night, I sought out 3 persons of indomitable hope, of incredible faith, and of great love. I called Lazaro, a member of Tanzanian Parliament, followed by Dr. Stephen Joyce, Med-Exec Director at Mercy One Trauma Hospital, and then my local congressman. All 3 men answered the call. And by 6:30 the next morning, we were meeting with the Vice President of Tanzania. She stoically listened to our fervent plea, and later that same day, while visiting the survivors with her, I saw her take a very terse phone call from President John Magufuli. Imagine our amazement when later that same day, at a memorial service for the dead, attended by 150,000 Tanzanian mourners, every East African news outlet, and the BBC, Vice President Mama Sumai, in starting her remarks, thanked the 3 heroes who saved the 3 kids, and then pointedly thanked me for my promise to take the children back to America. Yeah, that was a pant-wetting moment, I'll tell you. Even more astonishing was Dr. Joyce's call later that same evening on Monday, saying that Mercy One Trauma Hospital was all in, but we still had to find transport, and we were leaving Tanzania in 2 days. So the next 48 sleepless hours were spent in fervent prayer and literally hundreds of phone calls to State Department, embassy, government officials, and private air ambulance services. By Wednesday morning, our day of departure, we got the devastating news that the U.S. government had declined our request for a military medevac plane. And the cost of a private air ambulance at $300,000 US, well beyond our mission's meager budget. So on Wednesday, I went to pay literally my last respects to 3 beautiful African children, Sadia, Wilson, and Doreen. And I returned to our orphan compound later, with mere minutes before our Land Rover left for the airport, packing my bags. And I was devastated. I was bewildered. And I was with little hope. And then my phone rang, and I answered. Dr. Meyer, this is Franklin Graham with Samaritan's Purse, and we want to help. In less than 72 hours, their DC-8 arrived in Tanzania to transport not only the 3 children, but their mothers and the doctor and nurse who had kept them alive. And on Monday, May 15th, all 3 children arrive in Sioux City, Iowa. Poor little Doreen, with a shattered jaw and 104 fever, endured 8 hours of grueling surgery that night. My orthopedic team heroically addressed Wilson and Sadia the next 2 days. But on Thursday, we had to take Doreen back to the operating room because, tragically, during transport, her shattered thoracic vertebrae had shifted so dramatically that she was paralyzed completely from the chest down. Her chance of medical recovery, 0. That day in the operating room, possessed by an unknown spirit far beyond my feeble faith, I said out loud that if anyone were offended by prayer, they should leave immediately. And seeing nothing but bowed heads and folded hands, I gently implored my talented co-surgeon, Dr. Quentin Durwood, to place his hands on Doreen's shattered spine. And I gently laid my hands on his, and I said out loud, God, I believe you parted the Red Sea. I believe you raised Lazarus back from the dead. And I believe that you can restore this precious child. God, please make Doreen walk. And after placing 14 screws in two 10-inch rods in Doreen's spine and seeing her literally mangled spinal cord, my good friend Dr. Durwood said to me, "My dear Stevie, I don't think you should pray out loud for the impossible. It just makes you look stupid." And I said, "Quentin, perhaps that's when we must." And I am humbly blessed to tell you today that 91 days later, Doreen Mashana arrived in Tanzania to a hero's welcome on that same DC-8 and walked off that airplane under her own power. And now, these three children, in an amazing epilogue, have done incredible things that we had never thought possible. Little Sadia, our precious Muslim sister, who was so terrified of strangers she did not speak a single word for a month after the accident, is now the articulate president of our high school Catholic student body. Wilson, who sustained a severe concussion, is now at the top of his class academically. And little Doreen, hopelessly paralyzed, is walking to school and playing soccer. These three children have become iconic beacons of hope and testament of miracles to the entire country of 50 million people. So much so that they are simply known throughout the entire region of East Africa as the Miracle Kids of Tanzania. And which of us would not aspire to be beacons of hope and testaments of miracles in our family, our workplace, and our communities? And I am 1,000% convinced that each and every one of us possesses or can develop the mindset and attributes to effect miracles on a regular basis. Now, do not get me wrong. This is not a name-it, claim-it prosperity message. Your dying mother may not be cured of cancer, and your failing marriage might not survive. The miracle you get may not be the miracle you ask for, but the miracle you need even more. And at the very least, by engaging the storms of life with like-minded warriors who are filled with hope, fueled by faith, and overflowing with love, you will engage from the tsunamis of life stronger, more hope-filled, and better prepared to take on the next battleground of life. Albert Einstein, of all people, amazingly said, "There are only two ways for us to live our lives, as if nothing is a miracle or that everything is." So then, how shall we choose to live our lives? In this time of unprecedented racial, cultural, and political divisiveness, let us live lives of endearing hope, of everlasting faith, and of exuberant love. And in the process, we shall see a transformative explosion of miracles in the world and a universe filled with miracle makers like you.